Hi, everyone. Welcome to the That's Allowed podcast. This is your hostess, Audrienne McKeon, and today we have Sierra Melcher. Welcome, Sierra. Please introduce yourself.
Thank you. I will. I'm glad to be here. I cheers. I love I love how normal it is to introduce ourselves, but how critical how we choose to do that is.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't take that lightly. Um, this is a podcast about stories, and the stories that we tell ourselves start at the very beginning. And the story of like who we are, we repeat all the time without even noticing how important it is or if it's accurate. And
Or
so,
we get very caught up in like, how
yeah,
do I introduce myself? Like, what's important to other people? I get caught
yeah,
up in that all
yeah.
the time when I go on podcasts and they ask me to introduce myself. And it's like, do you want my bio? Do you want what I do? Do you want what I think my gift is? Do you want like what persona are you interested in? Because there's so many
And
aspects
all
to this.
and every question you just asked yourself is a projection of what do you all
Yeah.
want of
Yeah.
me? What do you want
Yeah.
me to be? How do I show up for you? Um,
Yes.
and I think that looking at all the question from all of those perspectives is so important. I hold women's circles. It's one of the major things that I do, and especially when there's new folks there, but also on a regular basis, I say introduce who you are today. Like just check in with that for yourself, because you're not who you were when we were here last week. And
Oh,
who are you today gives you permission to be a total mess today without being a total mess tomorrow, or having it all sorted out today and then being a total mess tomorrow, because that just makes space for us to be in process.
Sarah,
um
I love that
and
so much. Like,
I
I
mean,
love that so
like that
much right
is my
now.
introduction,
Yeah,
right?
because
that that
I just
that's
told
my
you
introduction.
I just did this amazing meditation, which was like the Daniel Bruce Levin's Trash Man meditation, where he just takes everything away from you that you think you are. And I wept and wept, just seeing everything that I hold dear sucked out of me and disappearing into
Mhm.
this void and just being empty for a minute. And then letting the universe just fill me with everything that's really mine and just feeling like overwhelmed with this energy of gratitude. So that's where I'm at today is like I'm feeling
Mm,
very new. I'm feeling very like a baby right now and
mm.
just allowing the universe to fill me and just in learning mode and just wanting to soak things up. And so you are the perfect person to talk to right after that because I'm reading your book that you're working on and that has been teaching me
Yeah,
so much about the book that I'm writing too and what it needs to have and what it
which
needs.
I'm reading. Yeah.
Exactly. So just so much learning going on. So please, the first question that I have, and this is I've changed it a little bit again because I've emptied myself of everything that I thought I was and that this podcast was.
Mm.
I'm a work in progress. This podcast is a work in progress. We all are a work in progress. So I'm going to change things up today. And this may be my new direction. We'll see what happens. But what is the story the world is not getting?
And I'm so glad to be here with you right now, the baby you. And I'm so glad to have this question, um, because this is a question that's been on my heart a lot. And it's, as a way of introduction, this is something that I've been playing with in different ways for a number of years. And my into a mission, maybe if we can call it that, is really to change the global conversation about what it means to be human. And
Yes.
so the story I think we're missing is is a field on which to discuss, without even having an answer, what the hell is this life, this body, what does it mean to to try to navigate, to find purpose, to find fulfillment, empowerment in the modern age. Like, what is it? Like, I'm a parent of a 5-year-old. What does it mean to procreate? Like, what is this life? And I think there's a lot of um, there's a lot of words happening in this conversation, but I do feel like we're missing the field on which to discuss. I think there's a lot of noise, and that's not to discredit some of the stuff that's happening, but there's just a lot of, I think there's something missing to ground us. I think the conversation is maybe a lot simpler than the discussions that are happening. Um, and so I'm showing up in the world. I've written a couple of books towards this end to sort of nudge people in the direction. My first book, How Change Really Happens, because for years I called myself a holistic transformational mentor, and no one knows what the hell that is, and that's okay. Um, but everyone in the world is looking to learn and grow, yet how learning and growing happens, we're like, oh yeah, but I don't want to do it that way. I want to learn and grow, but it feels uncomfortable, so I'm going to skip it and try something else.
Oh man.
Um,
I just read that section where you talked about the little, Ben and Jerry's magnet that says if it's not fun, why do it? And it's so funny
right.
because I had that exact same thing and had the exact same experience of like, wait, I'm just having fun, but like uh, my life keeps being not fun. What's that about?
Yeah. Yeah.
Funny thing when you avoid your pain and you you avoid
Sorry about
discomfort,
that.
growth doesn't
Yeah.
happen, change doesn't happen, and you stay stuck in the not fun, ironically. So I love that idea of how change really happens. I've done a lot of work on that and learning
Yeah.
how our brains work, learning how our hearts work, figuring out that to change something, first of all, you have to accept where you're at. You have to
Yep.
start from where you really are because you can't
Yep.
change from someplace you're not.
You can spend years trying though.
Oh
Go
boy,
ahead.
can you ever.
If you want to pretend that you're someone else and try to change that projection, by all
Uh-huh.
means.
Uh-huh. Let me know how
I
that
think
goes
that's
for
where a
you.
lot of, right? I think people, I mean, I know that I think I probably spent at least a decade doing that.
Yeah.
I'm I'm going to be so professionally disconnected from who I am. I'm just going to decorate the projection,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to do, and the clients that I work with, um, a lot of them, this comes up a lot. Like, maybe I should just get another degree. Maybe I should, it's,
Mm-hmm.
I feel, I get these images a lot. It's sort of like we're in a cave. There's some shadow, like there's a light and there's a shadow pictures, and we think that that's real. And we're like, well, if that projection of reality, then I need to be like that. And so we're making these decisions from these shadow projections
Mm-hmm.
rather than like you said, getting to know ourselves, which yeah is terrifying and uncomfortable until it's not, until it's sort of fun, and until that same terror, you're like, ooh, terrifying. Let's do more of that. And so you can take, right? Or like, ooh, this is rich. This is mooky, um, which I don't think is a word, but I just made
It
it
is
one.
now. I
It
like Mookie.
right? Mooky,
Go for
super
the Mookie
mucky.
stuff. Muck around in the muck.
Right? I call it the messy middle. And this is just like you've got between where you are, which you have to see first, between where you are and where you want to be, you have to see where you are and be okay with that. It's maybe not the right word, but like acknowledging it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
You have to like start where you are, which ironically, not ironically, because everything is perfectly synchronized. Last month's training that I did in my community was called Start Where You Are.
Uh-huh.
Um, have to get into you have to get into the now. It's if you're navigating, if you're trying to make a map, which is one of the things I help my clients do, is like, okay, where do you want to go? Okay, cool, fine. Are you sure you want to go there, or that's not just somebody else's projection for you? Who are you? And then let's like it's this back and forth. Where do you want to go? Where are you? Who are you? Are you sure you want to go there? Okay, once we've got the like those 2 points, then
Yeah.
let's map out a course.
Yeah.
Most people don't know where they are and have a false perception of where they want to be,
Mm-hmm.
and like you said, wonder why it's not coming together.
Yeah. Or I've
And
got this plan and I keep banging my head against this plan and it just doesn't seem to be working for me. I still end up, someplace I don't want to be.
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, yeah.
Yes.
So the story that I think we just need to come to answer your question, maybe in a phrase, is the story that's not being told is the story of how significant we each are, how much capacity, wisdom, knowledge, direction we all possess for ourselves to live our fulfillment, the direction, whatever it is that we're seeking. We have all those answers. We have all that guidance. We have all that clarity. No one can give you the answers to those questions. No one can solve your relationship or fix your career or improve your health for you. So, and that's so contrary to the beliefs. We're like, no, look outside yourself. Find an expert to do it for you. Get another something that's then going to fix you. And it's not out there. No one else can figure out what your life is about. You can't.
But also sometimes it's about getting out of our own way. And like you said,
Oh, yeah.
letting go of this shadow vision that you've had that you think is yours, that you
Yeah.
believe to be you, but that is a construction based on so many other people's expectations and the things you've had to do just
Yep.
to survive and get by with the limited tool set that you had.
Yep. Fair enough.
And so to actually get at those answers and that truth, which I
Yeah.
completely agree is in there, you
Yeah.
have to let go and clear out all that trash and let the trash man take it away.
Yeah. Well, and so for a while I was like, this is the work that I'm called to do. But I believe that each person's their own expert. So am I irrelevant? What
Right.
like what and I realized no, because we do. We need a guide to figure out who we are because it's not normal, because it's not universally accepted. Um,
And
and because we're taught,
because it's so hard to see from the
oh yeah,
inside.
yeah, no,
It's
you
like I
can't.
love to use this example, this metaphor of okay, so there's this old woman and she lives in a shoe. You've heard of her. But she has no idea that her home is a shoe. From her perspective, it's nice. It smells like leather in there, and she's got these nice skylights. She has this comfy sole, where she
Sure.
sleeps. But it's never occurred to her that it's a shoe because she's never stepped outside of it to
Yeah.
see its shoe shape. So from our perspective, it's very obvious. Hey, you live in a shoe. But she needs someone from the outside to notice that and help her figure out, oh, this is a shoe. Do I want to live in a shoe? I don't know.
Yeah. I love something that you shared earlier,
Yeah.
ties back in when you were letting go of all the things you hold dear. I, from my own experience, and now from watching this for so many people, we actually hold dear our limitations.
Oh God, yes.
Hold dear, our I can't do it, I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy, that stuff
Uh-huh.
feels so familiar slash comfortable because
Oh,
it's
yeah.
so familiar. Like it keeps us safe in this tiny little space. And so because
Yes.
of that, we're like, but I don't want to let go of this totally crippling doubt in myself. Like I need this.
Yeah.
And it's really scary to let that go and be like, well, maybe I can.
That reminds me of another metaphor, which
Bring it. I
is
love
that
metaphors. We could just we can metaphor poker, see
exactly.
you and raise you.
So imagine you're in a straitjacket.
Mm.
Okay. Now it's really difficult to get things done because your hands are tied around you, right? But it feels so comfy. You're in this little warm hug, right? And every time somebody asks you to do something, you say, I'm sorry, I can't do that. I don't, my hands aren't free. Sorry. It's the perfect excuse.
Yeah.
And you can't get out of it because it's a straitjacket, right? But of course you could get out of it. You could just ask someone to help you out of that thing, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you could do all kinds of things that you can't do now. But then that would mean that you need to learn how to do all these things that you've never done
Right.
before because you've been in this straitjacket for so long. And that's very
And
scary.
exactly. The we this is the fundamental paradox, and I write about it in both of my books, How Change Really Happens, and the one that you're reading that's about to come out, Date Yourself. We want to grow. We want to thrive. We want, the next thing. We want love and acceptance and belonging. But to grow means to do something that you don't know how to do. And so being really bad at it for as long as it takes until you're not bad at it. But we're really bad at being bad at things. And so we try something and we're like, oh, I'm not good at it. So I'm not going to try again.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I Years ago now, I was a high school teacher. And that was sort of my first iteration of this. And I used to give this lesson. I was like, so I hear you 14-year-olds saying, well, I'm just not fill in the blank, right? Everyone has those stories early on, and then we repeat them.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, I want you to imagine a baby, and the baby is new to everything. And this baby crawls and tries to walk and falls down. And if that baby said, well, oh, well, I fell down, I'm not going to try again, I must be bad at walking, then that baby would never walk. And we know that that's ridiculous. We know that that's ridiculous. Yet we do this all the time. Whatever I'm bad at, I'm not going to do. So I'm not going to get better at it. So it makes me right. For years, I knew it, but couldn't quite get out of it. I was like, I'd rather be right and stuck, right? Because I know I'm in the known world. I want to know I can't do this, I can't do that, I can't do this, but I'm right and I understand my world. Then be wrong about any of those beliefs and then have sort of the world open up for me, but be uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And so I've had to shift how I feel about discomfort, really radically transform that. But also, I did it just a second ago, using the word familiar instead of comfortable, because the things that are
Mm.
familiar, and the root of the word comes back to family. Okay, so the things that
Yeah.
are familiar are the things that we know.
Mm-hmm.
You can be really uncomfortable
Mm-hmm.
in the familiar, but choose the familiar over the unknown, even if there's comfort out there, but we're not
Yeah.
willing to leave this. My mentor talks about it like, and the sort of the dance when we're ready to outgrow something,
Yeah.
it's the pain and then the fear and then the pain and then the fear. And she talks about like going back and forth between like, oh, I am uncomfortable in my familiar, but I think I'm more uncomfortable to grow out of it, but we're meant to grow. We are meant to grow. And most of, not all, I don't certainly, but most of our suffering comes with our unwillingness, not our inability, but our unwillingness to go out of the familiar into the next unknown and be bad
Yeah.
at something until we, you know, we're always growing. There was a time when what we've outgrown was brand new too. And we were,
Yeah.
we just evolve through these stages of life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's so much to mine in there. So I've been working with this woman, Megan Geyser, on the Human Reboot project
Mm,
and just talking about, as you said right at the beginning of this, like, what does it mean to be human? What are we doing here?
yeah.
And I think learning and growth is a huge, important piece of that puzzle.
Mm,
But then there's the question of like, so then why do we resist it so much? Like, why do we think we hate it? Why do we, and it's that fear of looking bad or looking dumb or looking
mhm,
not good enough, in front of each other. It's that shame
yeah.
piece. And over the years, I used to have just a terrible, non-growth mindset where just a big old fixed mindset.
Mm,
Absolutely. When I was a kid, it was like, if I'm not good at it, like, I'm not doing that. I only do
yeah.
things that I'm good at and I show off and I get praise and I get validation. And
Yeah.
that's my happy place. So I was a performer and I would go out on stage and get applause and that's what I would feed off of, right? And if I
Mm,
didn't get enough applause, I would cry and cry
mm,
and cry, right? If I didn't make the audience laugh with my joke, I was devastated. And as the years have gone by, I've realized more and more that it's that fear that I need to listen to. Because if you focus on that pain of like, oh, I can't tolerate this anymore. Well, you have to get pretty far down before that
mm.
happens, right? You can tolerate a lot before it becomes
Unfortunately, yeah, we're very
intolerable and you hit that
yeah.
rock bottom and then feel like you have to change. And so the wisest people I know are the people who, as soon as they feel a little bit scared of something, they feel a little bit intimidated, they see something and they're like, ooh, that's a little scary. I don't know if I want to do that. That's what they go after
Yep,
right away. They just go,
yep,
oh, okay, that's the universe telling me this is the direction that I actually need to go now because it scares me.
yeah. The growing edge comes with
Yep.
fear. It doesn't come, and the story we have is like, uh, if you're on the right path, it should be easy. Somewhere I got that story, right? If you're doing it right, it'll be easy.
Hmm.
And and my experience now has taught me the absolute opposite. If I'm all squirmy and feeling like a naked little worm out in the universe, then I'm where I need to be.
Yeah.
But it took me a long time to be willing to wriggle out of my shell. And I invested most of my energy in barricading the shell instead of like cracking out of it and hatching into the next thing. And this comes back to the process that allowed for me to be willing to break out of the shell, be willing to be the squiggly little worm, is connecting here,
Yeah.
right? Not expecting or seeking validation or
Mhm.
belonging from outside, but creating a culture, an inner culture of acceptance, belonging, um, tolerance. Like I'm willing to be as I am. And this comes back to our introduction. Who are you?
Yeah.
I'm constantly checking in. Who am I today? We met 10 days ago. That was a different person. And this is
Mhm.
me today, which gives permission and space for me to be whatever, whoever. And I don't have to invest in being the same all the time. Um,
Yeah. I
but
wanted to
yeah,
go ahead.
tending to like, I feel, and this is what I teach in my circles and to my clients, is to like feel so safe and grounded and connected, um, and like agency is one of the three pillars that I teach, is like capacity to show up for yourself as you are, the willingness to fall flat on your face and still be okay. And I think
Mhm.
before I had none of that. And so all myself was determined by others.
Yes.
My sense of self, my validity, my worth, my acceptance, my belonging, my lovability was just out there. And like you said, absolutely not willing to do anything that I couldn't do perfectly because of that equation that I had just created.
Yeah.
And so reverse engineer it, like build the foundation from self, um, to then go figure out who I can be tomorrow. Um, and that for me, like that level of questioning is what I mean with like, what does it mean to be human? I don't have the answers. I have lots of questions, and I want more questioning as sort of a normal.
So I wanted to make a distinction there, and this is a perfect kind of segue that when we talk about, challenging yourself, like teach to your weaknesses and, go outside of your comfort zone. One of the things that a lot of people then immediately think is, oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. So I need to be able to do these things because other people expect me to do them. So, yeah, now I have to force myself to learn these things that I'm not really that interested in.
Yeah,
But they're expected of me. And so I need to stop thinking that I'm not good at that. And so I have to that's not what we're talking about. That's
right.
not what we're talking about. I've gotten
That's the
that one.
continuation, right? Like that's the
Yes.
continuation of the thought process of what's the external telling me. Now
Hmm.
I have to go do what the external is telling me.
Right.
Um, and if she can do it, I should do it
Uh-huh.
because the external authority is out there, right? And that's, I agree, absolutely.
Yeah.
There's a step missing.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And so how do you help people find that missing step? Because
Mm,
it's so easy, to say like, oh, well, you just have to love yourself.
yeah.
Good luck with that, right? Like,
Right.
huh? That it's
Yeah.
such a
No.
terrifying thing. It's like you said, self-love. It's like, who am I? What is love? Where
Yeah.
do I even start with that? And I've been, helping people for a while now. And, often we come to that point of like, yeah, but I don't even know I don't know where to even start
Yeah.
with self-love. Like where do we start with that? So
Mm,
can you share some tools
yeah.
that you use to help people even just know where to start with
Yeah.
that?
Yeah. So this question is exactly why I wrote the book Date Yourself,
Yeah.
right? Because it's just like, yeah, just love, go ahead. And now that you love, isn't it great? And I'm like, wait a minute.
Wait, what?
We, yeah, like I heard you, but I have no idea what you're talking about. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know who self is, don't know what love is. These two concepts are now just two black holes that you've put together that are supposed to somehow solve all my problems. And it never,
And
never
now I feel
sort
even
of,
worse about myself because
exactly.
I
Oh
can't do
my
the
God.
simplest, most obvious thing. Love
Right.
yourself.
Right.
That should
Yeah.
be like the basic, and yet it feels impossible.
Yeah. Um, whew. All right. So there are three things. And again, I believe in simplicity, but I also understand that simplicity is not straightforward. um, and that we sort of as a culture, I think, have this preference to complexity. And so we
Mm,
overlook the simplicity, and then because we're looking for something to be hard to fix the problem, it just sort of breaks down. But um, there are three things that I teach over and over and over again, because there are steps, but it's not 1, 2, 3, you're done. It's 1, 2, 3, repeat. 1, 2, 3, repeat.
Right.
Because all of this being you, you're not done. You're never going to
You're
be
never
done.
done.
And
Mhm.
I don't want you to be done. Done, done is dead. Done
Yeah.
is static. The continual, like, okay, redoing. I see things as like like an expanding spiral. um, the Fibonacci sequence is like, oh, I've come back around to this, but I'm looking at it from a slightly different perspective. And I'm coming back to it again and coming back to it again. And so we were just this expanding spiral of self. The three things that I teach over and over again in my women's circles are grounding, aligning, and agency.
Mhm.
And I've been doing this now week after week after week after week. And it's still just this, it's like this ebb and flow, right? Okay. It's like the phases of the moon. We're doing it again and we're doing it again. So grounding asks the question of like, who are you right now? Who are you today? We take a deep breath. We get out of our heads, which we spend a lot of time in.
Mm.
And the breath helps both physiologically and psychologically, slows your heart rate, gets you out of that overthinking anxiety mode.
Mm.
Take a couple of deep breaths and get your attention into your body. Okay, who am I right now? The body's not really judgmental. The mind's pretty judgmental, but the body's not. And so, like, who am I right now? And what do I want? Which is sort of the aligning. Like, what's the energy? Where do I want to go? And that's not even where I want to be, because even that belief is that there's a done, right? Like, what do I want to experience? And so aligning to the next thing, like aligning to the fear, right? I want to be nervous. I want to be excited, because those are the same experience, just with different sort of takes on the experience. And then agency is, and what am I going to do about it? Who am I? What do I want? What am I going to do about it? And what am I going to do about it? Again, I think we're like, oh, I need to be a millionaire and change the world and have everything sorted out, which means I have to do a whole lot, which means I'm done before I've started because I've given up on myself. No. Like, I write about it in both of my books, this idea of a micro shift.
Mhm.
And so this agency comes back to, what is the smallest thing I can do about it? And we really struggle with that until we get super practiced at breaking it down, right? Sometimes the answer is, I'm going to breathe some more, right? Like, you go right back to the beginning. What am I going to do about it? I'm going to come back, and that's it. That's all I'm going to do right now.
Yeah.
In my circle, we spend a week on each of those things. And then the next month, we come back. And the next month, we come back. What I've just done here is like a whole month's worth of stuff. But making space, you're making mental space, you're making energetic space, you're making physical space for getting to know who you are in this moment, starting where you are. You're making space for what you truly desire rather than what you think other people need from you or want from you, which is up in here. A lot
Mhm.
happens here.
Well, and also recognizing that that changes. Just like
Yeah,
you said, the question of who am I today? What do I want today? My desires can change from one day to the next. My
they do.
vision of, my perfect world. I do this exercise, often with people on the podcast. And I really want to reiterate for people that, like, that doesn't mean, this is now a fixed vision of like what my
No.
future will be.
Yeah.
This is one possibility among infinite possibilities. The idea is just to get you out of this fixed mindset of like
Right.
only one thing is possible. No, anything is possible.
Yeah.
And you can put yourself into any future and then look backwards and go, well, how did I get here? and draw a map to there if that's where you want to go. And maybe that is today and it won't be tomorrow.
The thing that I'm noticing too is like when we do this grounding, aligning agency and we do the micro shift and we are successful,
Mm-hmm.
that creates the momentum. And so
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be a straight line.
Yeah.
There's not one fixed destination, there's not one fixed starting point, and you certainly don't have a straight line. Today you're going to go this way, tomorrow you're going to go this way, today and you can always, and that's why the aligning is like, what do I want now? I don't have to be beholden to what, okay, January 1st, 2020, people wrote their wish lists, their grand plans. The world is different. I mean, how many people
Yeah.
did their goal setting on at the beginning of the year? The whole world is sideways,
Yeah.
right? You're learning and growing in ways that we could not have even conceived of 9 months ago, 10 months
Yeah.
ago. And to try to hold ourselves to that standard, try to reach that goal, it's insanity,
Yeah.
except that's how we've been practicing it. And then one of the things I was definitely addicted to was getting to beat myself up about failing to reach my goals.
Yeah.
And I would set the goals too big, and they would be someone else's in the first place, and they'd be too big, inaccessible from the beginning. But at least I got to be right that I wasn't good enough, right?
I thought this wasn't going to work, and I was right.
And I'm right. I was like, I knew it wouldn't work. I knew. And that was the
Oh,
solace, right? That
Sierra.
and it's not embarrassing. It's
No,
just
it's
so
so beautifully human.
it
So
is. And I
beautifully
have
human.
empathy for myself, that version of myself, and I have empathy for people who are still practicing that because I know that it's universal. Like
I I was the exact opposite. I would set like the easiest, most
mm,
non-ambitious little goals and then
right.
throw myself a parade because it was like, look, I did this thing.
I put on my
I
undies. Woo!
exactly like I got up today. Yay, me. And then I'd be like,
Yeah.
okay, but what now? And that didn't actually make me
Right.
happy.
And
So,
you wouldn't set the goal that would challenge you enough
mhm.
to actually make you feel good. So
Yeah.
one of the things that I've really dug into this year is about fulfillment and like figuring out what is fulfilling. And it's different for every person, but the thing that is common, like the uniting thread of fulfillment, is striving, reaching farther than you can towards something. It's not the arrival there, it's the reaching and the trying. And that in itself is fulfilling, not the completion, but the agency. I am reaching for something that is beyond me now. And it feels so good to show up for ourselves that much. But both your story and my story are two different ways to avoid fulfillment,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? And and we're really good at it. We're really good at preventing our own growth. We're super skilled.
So that's a perfect segue if you're up for my little
Seg,
exercise.
yeah.
Shall we do
Seg,
it?
seg
Okay.
away. Yeah.
So I'm just gonna close your eyes for a moment here. Yeah, nice deep grounding breath there. All right. I'm gonna wave my magic wand, and I have just granted all your wishes. And these are your wishes today. This is what you are desiring right now. And you are now in present tense, in this perfect existence that has just come to pass. And I want you to just describe what you see.
I love that. Um, and the first things that came to mind actually were all the things I'm currently doing.
Uh-huh. Perfect.
um,
Perfect.
the because I have this year really, and I've been fortunate to have this global sidewaysness, to really incubate and
Mhm.
spend time in and on my growing edge. And so, like, to do the impossible, basically, um, and get okay with doing the impossible. Uh, I'm currently seeking reviews for my book,
Mhm.
and I've been writing to people who I think would be great to write reviews. So I'm, writing emails to my heroines, like,
Mhm.
yeah, I wrote to Cheryl Strayed today and Bell Hooks, and when I get these emails back, I'm like, oh my god, it doesn't matter if she says yes or no, because, like, I got an
You got a
email
response.
from, right.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my god, I'm in correspondence with.
Yeah.
Um, the the only difference, and this is something that I've been playing with this week, having a massive shift around the energy of money
Mhm.
and the sort of scale. My energy around money had been trapped, and on Wednesday I was like, oh, and that has rippled through the, like, my energy of the vision. And so the only difference is, like, the number of people that I can support and reach. I'm
Hmm.
literally still having coffee on my balcony. I'm still sitting at this desk. Nothing else has changed. Maybe I'm going to throw away an old pair of shoes, which, not ironically, I had a dream a couple of months ago. I was like, I was barefoot because I had outgrown my shoes, and I needed to step into bigger shoes. I was like, okay, here we come, bigger shoes. And this all fits together, of, like, the exact number of people isn't relevant, right? Because that's just,
Right.
again, my mind trying to put something on it. But supporting more people through this self navigation, so that they can figure out who they are and what they
Yeah.
want and what fulfills them and what they want to create in the world. I'm not going to dictate that for anybody. I would never, but I want to be the facilitator, the accelerator, the vehicle of this self navigation. Um,
Yeah.
and so your magic wand opens that to many
Yeah.
more folks.
So I'm seeing and hearing expansiveness, a spread.
Yeah.
And I'm hearing that what you're doing already is very much in line with your desires. You feel really already very aligned. And so it's just more and more of what already is. And it's
Oh,
just growing and expanding and becoming bigger than you and moving beyond you,
yeah.
kind of spreading out and flowing out to other people
Yeah.
around you.
Yeah.
I want you to see one person in your mind that you've just reached and helped to find herself.
Hmm.
And just see that look on her face and feel that energy from her breakthrough and just feel what that feels like for a moment. And then I want you to see yourself having a breakthrough too. Something just you never expected has fallen out of the sky into your lap, this amazing opportunity. It's scary, it's big, and you know it's going to change everything, and you're ready for it.
Mm.
You want to just describe what that feels like?
The phrase that's coming to mind is just growing up.
Mm.
And, through my 30s, ironically, because I was still in a high school. I was teaching teenagers. I was like, I still feel like I'm 15.
Uh-huh.
Like nothing, I feel like such a fake. My whole first year of teaching, I bought a pair of fake glasses because I thought that's what teachers, I was like, I need a prop to look like this role is mine. I didn't need glasses. I probably did permanent damage to my eyes by wearing fake glasses, but I was like, this is me faking it. And the identity shifted into I am a teacher, I can do this. It fully integrated, but I still felt like a kid. I was like, I don't feel like, yeah, that changed when I had a baby. As some people, some people have babies early and maybe grow up faster, but like I had a baby in my late 30s, and so
Me too.
definitely feel just the identity shift in that. It's like, okay, whew, um, now the relationships are different, but it feels, what I saw feels really natural, and just like the obvious next step. Um, just like my dream of like needing new shoes, this is like walking out onto a bigger stage.
Yeah.
Whether it was like literally the thing I thought was like being invited to speak somewhere big.
Mm-hmm.
Not even applying, like I'm doing a lot of the applying, but the invitation
Yeah.
is like, ooh, they're coming to me now.
Oof.
That's different. And okay. But like literally walking out onto a bigger stage, literally and metaphorically. Yeah.
I love that symbol of the glasses, the fake glasses. When I started teaching at the university level, I started wearing these boots that had a really thick heel that would make a click click sound when I walked in because I
Right.
felt like they
Same
needed to know
here.
that teacher has arrived.
Yeah.
And there was something about that that just gave me this feeling of like authority, like I am now in my teacher outfit
Right.
and I can
Yeah.
be a teacher. But then the funny thing is, as I, started teaching more and more sort of acting classes, I would end up wearing, yoga pants and bare feet and things like this. And I felt like I became a better and better teacher the
Mhm.
less I tried to be
Oh
a
yeah.
teacher.
Yeah. I think that's the integration process, right?
Yeah.
With everything new, in the beginning, it's uncomfortable, and we need to put on, sometimes literally, we need to put things on to feel like we can fill the role.
Yeah.
And then the more that it's integrated, the more that it is part of who we are, the less we need to, yeah, like you said, try, because it
Yeah.
it becomes. But I think even just recognizing that, having compassion and appreciation for that, when I walk out on that stage, I'm going to be wearing something ridiculous, right? Like there's going to be something, whether it's like a crystal in my pocket or like, some good luck charm. There's going to be something that I'm going to have done that says, okay, now you're ready. Like now
Yeah.
this is the symbol. um
I got my
I
hair did, or I got a new suit, or whatever it
Right. Yeah,
is.
the something, sort of the protection, the physical protection to make this transition, sort of like my rocket ship.
Yeah.
Have you I can't remember where it is, but Brene Brown speaks about her process just before she goes onto stage. I think for her first TED Talk, the one that went viral and then went all
Yeah.
crazy, but she was wearing a suit. She was wearing something that she would never wear, and she felt super uncomfortable. And just before she went on stage, she put on her mom jeans.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, no, I'm just going to wear what I wear all the time because that's actually how I feel more comfortable. I feel more comfortable myself than pretending to be somebody else. And I love that. And
Yeah.
that, like, she navigated that whole thing internally and then shared it with us, and then she was herself. And that's when the authority is coming from there, right? Like, it doesn't matter what pants you're wearing or your shoes or your glasses. It doesn't matter once you've figured out it doesn't matter what you're wearing. People aren't going to look at your pants the way, like, we think everyone's looking. They're not. They're looking at themselves still. Like they're worried about what they're wearing while you're talking about what you're talking about. So
Absolutely.
just reconnecting with and authority is this really interesting word. And as someone who works with books, if you don't know this already, you'll appreciate this. The root of the word authority is author,
Mm-hmm.
the one who writes the story.
Yes.
And we are continually writing our own story through our actions, through our thoughts, through our words. That brings us back how we introduce ourselves to strangers. Every single time we do that, we are authoring our own story. Whether we know it or not, whether we embrace it or not, we are the authority on ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
We decide how we show up. We decide really how we show up and how other people think of us. And when we click into that, it's like a quantum poof in terms of empowerment and self-realization of just like, oh my goodness, the stories I've been telling myself about me, the stories I've been telling others about me. I share a few in Date Yourself. It's like, oh, those stories, those are not loving, supportive stories. I would
No.
never speak to a friend, let alone a stranger on the street, that way. I am 24/7 feeding myself these thoughts and these ideas.
Yeah.
And so this inner narrative, I think of sort of like the new nourishment for our soul. So we're literally, not literally, metaphorically feeding ourselves this narrative. And we can, because it's metaphysical, right? We can change it like that. It's not a physical book that needs to be rewritten. It's a story in our own psyche, and it can be shifted. So
I
that's
love the word reintegration.
mhm.
When you talk about, the hero's journey. And of course, we are all the hero of our own many, many heroes' journeys. And at the beginning, there's that separation where you get separated from, your tribe or your idea of yourself or, whatever it is. And then you go through the initiation process of learning a completely new way to be. But then often people forget that last piece, which is coming home, which is the reintegration of now I know all this stuff, but I'm coming back to the familiar with this new understanding of the world. And so there's that beautiful moment for many of us where it's like, oh, I don't have to wear these fake glasses anymore. I actually am the teacher. I
Oh,
am the author.
my daughter just came home. You want to say hi?
Oh.
Not really. No. Give me 5 minutes. Go play with Rosie, okay? I'm going to feed you in just a second. You can get the potato chips off the fridge. Okay.
Lime chips.
Yep. Rosie, let her go, please. Thank you. Yeah, I love how the hero's journey fits into the story. And I think of it as, and then you start again,
Yeah.
right? You've done the whole thing. This whole image that you just described, like the leaving, the stepping out of the familiar, out of the comfortable, and then bringing it all back together. And then home is different. You're different.
Yeah.
Somebody if you've ever traveled,
Mm-hmm.
like you're out of your own culture, and then you come home and you're like, what happened here?
Mm-hmm.
Nothing, like we're different. And so the whole world seems different. And then we do it again and again
Yeah.
and again
Again.
because we're cyclical creatures, to say the
I
least.
always say every story has a happy ending. It just depends on where you end the story. And on that note, where can the people at home find you, Sierra?
Perfect. I am pretty present on Facebook. My books are available on Amazon, so you can just put in Sierra Melcher into the Amazon search and find me there, and integral-women.com.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for being here.
It's absolutely my pleasure. I'm so glad to have spent the hour with you.
Yeah, this was great.